Hi guys, Dell back here again. So this is the second part of the video. The first part was showing you the fitment of the motion sim to the R-Seat N1, and the second part is the software. So the software came when I bought the Next Level Motion Sim. I was sent a link to the software. Basically, you take the serial number and you go to the Next Level website, you plug in the serial number, and it gives you a download to the actual software. Run the software, run the installer, and once the installer was run, basically what came up was this window. And it was that simple. The chair was plugged in and turned on, the USB recognised it, and this window came up, and I was sort of came through going, wow, it supports a lot of games. And since after I first got the motion sim, probably in about the first two, this is the V3 by the way, motion sim, the first probably 2 to 3 weeks, I had about 2 software updates and maybe 3 or 4 firmware updates. Haven't really had anything since, but what did come through were things like Dirt 4, which at the time of making this video hasn't been released. These are all the games that it supports. As you can see, it's quite considerable. I'll just go through these sort of slowly. Look, there's one. Ooh, that's not coming out for a little while, but the support's already in there for it with all its little activity bits and pieces. But as you can see, it even supports things like X-Plane 11, X-Plane 10 for people with flight sims. So it's quite an extensive list. What I did is I took the games that I have and I put them into a favourites list and went to favourites, and this is what's running on my system at the moment. So if you were to look at what was in the actual base software, there's a number of settings, and to be perfectly honest with you, I haven't really played with any of these. I'll just give you a brief rundown on what's here. There's a thing called Platform Diagnostics, which is fairly extensive. I sort of looked at it. It's a bit on the daunting side, and there's nothing in here that I've had to touch or had to do anything with at all. Everything's still just setting exactly to its default settings how I had it. There's a platform preview, little window that sits in the corner and can give you readouts of what the platform's doing, which again haven't used. There's a park it button, so that basically you hit the park it button and it puts it back into its home position and basically parks the seat. Center it just to make sure it's actually centered. There's a platform activity, again, no activation activate platform, sorry, there's no platform activation required. Software configuration, again I've left everything as default, haven't changed anything. If you guys want to go into more of this, then please do. If it's somebody that's done a lot more in this, then please post along with it or link off to any other videos. Some hardware configuration, again I think what this is things like oscillation dampening and alternative control algorithms. I think these are for their higher end motion platforms, because I understand that this company, Motion Systems, do make a considerable amount of different motion systems from consumer to commercial. So there's a level calibration. Again, something I've not had to have anything to do with. This was perfectly level out of the box, so I haven't had a problem with that. Game integration. When I had a look at this, but as I've been installing games and adding games, a lot of this has actually been automatically been installed, so I haven't had to do anything. Again, there's nothing I've had to do to change any of this. Firmware updates. Again, when I get a firmware update, usually in this Action Center, you'll get a little notification if you're connected online, and it'll pop up here, but as you can see, I've got the latest version in here. so there's nothing I need to do there. There's some other different configurations in here. Again, it's something I have not touched and I don't really want to touch because it doesn't impact on me at all. There is an onboard dash diagnostic. You can actually have this running on top of your game and giving you readouts and all the information that you require, but again, I haven't bothered with it because it's a bit bigger window to have running across a game. And again, and a G meter, but again, it's something I don't use. There's this is the games integration which we saw earlier. There's help and support. Looks like they've got an online help and support option here with telling you what has been changed and added in the each time the software comes down. There's the little action center. Everything seems to be configured, as you can see, no dramas. VR integration. I don't have VR at the moment, but always open to offers if anyone wants to send me one. But yeah, so there's something, there's ways of doing setups and compensations for VR with the motion, which again, it's something when or if I do get VR that I'll have to look into. Global pause and exit program. So pretty simple, but again, 99% of what's here I don't touch. Basically, just the action center when anything notifications come up. So, for instance, if I was to go into say iRacing, I can just click into the iRacing setup, and as you can see, I've made some changes. And iRacing has actually more sliders than any other game at the moment because it's got this additional rev limiter threshold percentage. What this is basically is when you're accelerating and you get to your gear change, the seat will actually vibrate somewhat, letting you know that you're hitting the rev limit. When I first got this has been an update that has been added. It was quite annoying because you'd get to go to do a gear change and all of a sudden the seat would vibrate like crazy and you think, oh, I've got to change the gear, and you weren't at the rev limit. So what I did is, once the update came through, I found that the default was set at about, I think it was about 50%. I pushed it up to 100 and that works a lot better. So it actually starts to vibrate a bit when you do actually get to the end of the rev limit rather than the middle of the rev limit. That was a sorely needed addition. And there's a few other additions that it has in here, which some of them have and some don't. This surge intensity. So you can see here what each one of the settings are. So there's an overall intensity, which is a global change, and then you have your roll, your heave up and down, the yaw, the twist, the pitch, and the sway. The one that I tend to play around a bit with is surge, because that's the one when you're braking that it actually throws the seat forward. So depending on the game, I found that, for instance, I needed to up it a bit for iRacing, but for Race Room I really had to sort of bring it down a bit. So that's one that, Race Room doesn't have the surge. I mean, Assetto Corsa, I had to bring it down a bit. But it, all the settings are relatively, like I said, they're really simple, because you just kind of go for a run and or drive in the car and find that if things are a bit too much or a bit too little, you just play around with them, I guess. And I've spent a few weeks playing here and there to get to what I think is kind of comfortable, not over the top, what I would perceive to be more of a realistic response. For instance, if you go to Race Room, there is no surge. So Race Room does have a tendency to get a little bit violent under brakes. It would be nice if they would add a surge slider into Race Room, because it can tend to throw you forward a little bit. As I mentioned in my previous video about changing the side plates on the seat to give me a little bit of tilt back on the seat, that was primarily because with Race Room, when I was hitting the brakes, I was practically having my chin slammed on the steering wheel. So Race Room can be a little bit sort of over the top with the surge, but everything else is really nice. If you go to Assetto, as you can see, a number of other settings are similar, except it's got the surge protection. As you can see in Assetto, I've actually dialed that down quite a bit. Automobilista, the same, dialed it down a bit. Dirt Rally, haven't really spent a lot of time with Dirt Rally, but there are, I wouldn't mind probably moving the surge down a bit. The one with Dirt Rally I did notice is the heave, the up and down, especially when you go over jumps. You can really get a kick in the bum when you do go over the jumps. And Project Cars, as you can see, the surge is dialed down quite a lot. And then basically from there, you just, once you've got everything set up and you want to start the game, you just click the play button and the game boots and away you go. So hopefully that's a little bit helpful. I didn't go into it in great detail because there are so many settings, a lot that I don't actually use. I'm happy if somebody's got a system, if they want to post a message, and I'll, write back my settings if it helps. Outside of that, everything's really just so ridiculously simple. I can't tell you how simple it is to actually set this thing up. But if you do get one, you will enjoy it. I literally don't know what racing's like without it now. The odd occasions that I do actually turn it off and run around the track, it actually feels a little bit on the strange side, not having that motion. I'm looking forward to probably looking at VR and having that full immersion and see how it goes. But if anyone does have a VR system with one of these, please post some videos, let people know what they think. But thanks guys, and I'll be back with another video, part 3 I guess you would call it, where I'll do some videos of me actually in the seat and the seat moving around and showing you what it's actually like. Thanks so much. Bye.